for you from Matthew chapter 5. It's the Sermon on the Mount, and tonight I'm going to set before you the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Two beautiful pictures of every single believer in Jesus Christ. If you are a Christian here tonight, you are the salt of the earth, and you are the light of the world. And I'll give you a few ideas of exactly what that means right after we read in Matthew chapter 5. Please remember that the Sermon on the Mount is not a way of salvation. One man, Mr. Kelly, a Puritan preacher, William Kelly, he wrote, reminding us of this very fact, quoting, "The Sermon on the Mount treats not of salvation, but of the character and conduct of those that belong to Christ." So it's not a way to get saved. It's a way to show that you're saved once you've truly come to the Lord, by being the salt of the earth and the light of the world as an example. Let's read in Matthew 5, verse number 13. "Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." So we're the salt of the earth. We're the light of the world. The last time we were together like this, we talked about being salt. And I said that it reminds us the world is a place of decay. Israel was very hot in those days, still is. They had no refrigerators or freezers, and their food was very perishable. So the way that they would extend the life of their food is they would salt it. That would reduce the moisture content, and it would improve the life of the vegetable or the fruit or the fish or whatever it was that they were trying to preserve. So the world in which they lived was a world of decay and rot, and the salt preserved things. And that's what we do, even without realizing it. Our role is to keep this world from getting as bad as it could be without us. Now, the world doesn't recognize that. They want to keep us out of their schools and out of their places of power. But we are the preserving agent. You look through history at the times when God and his people were removed from places, and it quickly tended towards decay and chaos. The prime example is the Garden of Eden. God came and walked and talked with men in the cool of the day, and it was a perfect place. Man fell into sin. God removed himself. And it wasn't very long in Genesis chapter 6 before every imagination of man was only evil continually, and God had to destroy the earth, and only Noah and his family were saved. And that's seen throughout the scriptures. In the future, in the tribulation, the Holy Spirit and the people of God are going to be raptured and taken out of the way. And how are those 7 years going to go? Antichrist is going to rise. The number 666 is going to come, and there will be widespread persecution and chaos in the heavens and the earth. So we are the preserving agent. We are the salt. And the reason the world is not as bad as it could be tonight, although it's bad, is because of the believers in Jesus Christ. We also said last time, we kind of make everything taste better. That's what salt does. My role is to make your life better, not worse. Am I doing okay? Am I really a blight on your life? I'm trying to make your life better every time that you come, when we see each other. I'm not running you down all the time. It's because we're the salt of the earth. We make our classes better when we're in a class. We make our workplace better when we're in a workplace. We make the world better because we care and love and forgive. So we are the salt of the earth. However, what does it say in verse 13? The salt can lose its savor. And that's the word foolishness. The salt can become very foolish. And sometimes I am foolish as a Christian. I don't read my Bible as much as I should or pray as often as I should. And I am not as effective in helping the world when I'm not wise as a believer. I can't be foolish, or I'm not going to be as effective as I should be. I am the salt of the earth. So that's a little bit of what we covered the last time. The last comment I'd make about being the salt of the earth is a quote by Vance Havner. He had a wonderful way of putting things. Salt must be brought into close contact with whatever it is meant to affect. If it is to do any good, Christians are the salt of the earth. We must be willing to be rubbed into the decaying carcass of an unregenerate society. Most of us are content to sit on Sunday in our little salt shakers, far removed from a needy and lost humanity. That's Vance Havner, and a good quote to remind us, since we are the salt of the earth, we've got to get out there and be close to the decay and the rot, although we might not like to, but that's how it's going to be preserved. Any comments about being the salt of the earth? Any thoughts that come to mind? Yes, that's right. We definitely need to be out and around with people and influencing them for good. There is such a thing as positive peer pressure, right? And we can be a positive influence. Okay, let's go on to the light of the world, and I've got a few thoughts about that from verses 14, 15, and 16. The first comment that I make from verse 14 is that you are the light of the world. This is not something you become, like you become the light of the world when you become a Christian, obviously, but once you're a Christian, it's not like you wait 7 years to become the light of the world. You go off to Bible school and you become the light of the world. No, you as a follower of Christ are the light of the world right now. That's the reality. Now, what's the reason? Why does the world need the light of the world? If salt reminds us that the world is a place of decay, light reminds us that the world is a place of darkness. There's lots of darkness out there in the world. And what do we mean by darkness? 1 John says that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. So what he means is that there's things in this world that are opposite to God. So God is light, love, peace, goodness, hope. There's lots in the world that is the opposite of that. Hatred, selfishness, unreasonable people, evil, darkness. And that's why we need the light of the world, because the world is in spiritual darkness. Spiritually, they are the opposite of who God is. And because of all of that confusion, death, and all the rest, the light of the world is needed. So to me, this sets up a great difference between God and the world, and even between the believer and the world. I really have nothing in common with the world. I'm light, she's darkness, or he's darkness, spiritually speaking. But I can have a great impact, and so can you. They are darkness, we are light. Do any of you have an example of how the world is darkness? Does anything come to mind that the world seems to be a dark or getting to be a very dark place? Yeah, the world is so twisted that they hold up the darkness and say, no, this is the light. This is the happy, good, righteous, peaceful, hopeful way to go. And you say, no, that's the way of destruction. And you're going to destroy your family, your future, your life, the world, going that way. But they think it's light. They're all mixed up.
Our government is changing the rules to allow things that God would not want in this world.
Yeah. Yeah, even the government promotes darkness sometimes and wants darkness.
That they just everywhere, it's everywhere, and they're promoting it. You can't say anything, you can't talk to them about it, or it's just, and there's all these homeless people that are around, they're putting them all out on the street now, and instead of, there was a building over there in Chatham, perfectly good building with a kitchen. The money that they spent housing them over the winter, they could have hired somebody to be a guard there, that they'd have a bed to sleep in at night, and food prepared. $120,000 kitchen that's wasted. And that's just one example of the things that they're doing wrong.
Yeah, and light has to do with wisdom, and we can bring a little bit of wisdom into the world and say, you know, what you're doing doesn't seem to make much sense in God's eyes or at all. So let's think about some functions then. Since we are the light already, it's not something I have to work at being, I'm just the light. What are some functions of the light? What does the light do? It guides, exactly. If I'm in a dark room or in a dark place, out on a path, I won't know which way to go. I won't know where the door is. I won't know to make sure to step over this route or avoid that creek because I'm in darkness. But turn on the light and I can see the way, even if it's just a little lantern to show me what step to take next. The light guides, and that's one of our roles, is to show the world the right way, to help them see things that they would never have seen before. And I think that's one of the reasons that we need Christians in places like government or at workplaces. Years ago, they thought in order to be righteous, you had to escape to the mountains and be a monk. Well, that's not going to help the world have any guidance. But by me going into the shops and making friends with unbelievers, I can help to show them the way. So guidance is one. What else does light do? It guides to the truth, that's right. We can see the truth. And what was somebody else going to say? It is warm. Yeah, it heats us up. That's exactly right, like the warmth of the sun. And hopefully we encourage you and generate a little bit of faith when you're around with other believers, rather than being that coal off by itself away from the fire and burning out. I wrote down that light reveals. It guides and it reveals. Like if we were all in the darkness right now and I made a funny face at you, you wouldn't even know that I was making a funny face at you. I could make a funny face and you wouldn't even see it. But flick on the light and you'd say, oh, that's a funny face. Because you'd be able to see what my face is looking like. So the light reveals what the world can't see right now. They're in blindness and darkness. They don't even know that what they're doing is wrong. But bring a believer or the Bible into the situation and say, look here's a little light on the situation. It reveals the truth. Dr. Barclay said it strips away all disguises, shows things as they really are. So we'd never know the true condition of the church or the world or even my family unless I have a believer around or the Word of God around to show me. That's how I know what I'm supposed to be living like. We are the light of the world. It reveals, it guides, and the last thing that I wrote down is it reflects. The light reflects. Now, look in Matthew 5:14. Ye are the light of the world. Would somebody read John 8:12 for us, please? John 8:12.
Then spake Jesus again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life.
Thank you. So Matthew 5 says, I am the light of the world. Well, ye are the light of the world, like speaking of believers. And in John 8:12, Jesus says, I am the light of the world, speaking of himself. So I'm the light, he's the light, but am I the same kind of light that he is? John 8:12, Bob just read it there for us. He can give the light. Like he's the light and he's the true light, the real light, the source of light. He can give light, it says there, to those that follow him. I can't really give light to anybody, but I can reflect the light, which is like what? There's the sun and the moon, and it looks like they're both lights in the sky, but there's only one real light, right? And the moon is reflecting the light of the sun. And if you've ever been out on a clear summer evening, that moon can reflect the light so brightly that you don't even need a fire or a flashlight. You can see really well, especially if you're out on water and it's reflecting so beautifully. That can be me. I can't actually, I'm not the source of light or guidance or warmth for anybody, but I can reflect it. The light of God, who's the true wisdom and truth. Dr. Guzik says, we are not light givers, we are light receivers, and we are light reflectors. And so we can help people see their condition, guide them, and reflect God's love and grace. Okay, I got two last points. And that is about the lumens of the light. I guess that's the measurement for light. How much light do I have to be effective? You know, do I have to be like a 1,000-watt light bulb to be effective in the world or my church? How much light do I have to show to really make a difference? Very little, right? Very little light makes a huge difference. And sadly, although I don't want the world to get any darker, I know it's going to, but actually the darker the world gets, the less light that makes a bigger impact. So it's actually to my advantage, although I don't want people to be hurt in any way, but the more evil in the world, the more I'm going to shine through the smallest of things that I do. And so you may not feel sometimes that you're very effective as the light of the world, but that is not true. The smallest of comment, the smallest of kind actions, and the simplest word of encouragement can have huge impacts on other people, because we are the light of the world. And like you say, just a little flame, one little flicker of a candle, and people suddenly see and understand and are guided in the right direction. So I really encourage you, although we want you to be as bright as you can, whatever small things you might be able to do for the Lord, make a big, big difference. And we thank you so much for all that you do. And then the last comment that I would make is about the system itself, the lighting system. How does it actually work that I'm the light of the world? Like, what does that physically or realistically, practically mean? I suppose the context of Matthew 5 really tells us this Sermon on the Mount. These words about being the salt of the earth and the light of the world follow hungering and thirsting after righteousness, being meek, being merciful, being a peacemaker, all of these beatitudes, and then much more to follow after, like not only in the Sermon on the Mount, but the whole Bible. We find things like don't worry about tomorrow, don't judge other people, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, love your neighbor as yourself, love God with your whole heart, soul, and mind, be filled with the Spirit, walk in the Spirit, don't grieve the Spirit, don't quench the Spirit. All of these commands surely are practical ways that I can shine the light. That's how I show God's light, is by being a peacemaker, being merciful, keeping the Sermon on the Mount. It's not how I'm saved, but it's certainly how I shine the light and make an impact and difference in the world. So we've learned a few things tonight about how we can show God's light and preserve this world. Are there any last comments about being either the salt of the earth or the light of the world? Something we neglected to mention, or a thought that came to mind?
If there's no power, there's no light.
Yeah, that's right. Since we reflect the light, if there's no God, or no relationship that I have with God, no way for me to reflect his light. That's right. So thankfully he's always alive, and I can have a good, strong relationship with him. Any other thoughts?
The stronger the relationship, the brighter the light.
Right, yeah, good. The stronger the relationship, the brighter the light. Good. I suppose the closer the moon would get to the sun, the brighter it would reflect those rays. All right, we'll say goodbye to everybody on live stream. Thank you very much for following.